For Friday. Okay, so normally what we do is we open cold and we do this good idea, bad idea, worse idea. But instead, since today's topic is hacking the brilliant jerk, I'm going to throw out the great challenge that I have. Das will throw out her great challenge. Mike may or may not have a great challenge, but I will tell you that these great challenges are very much directed at Mike. So my great challenge is by the end of the show, I hope that we can figure out that, or that we can convince Mike in some way that they can somehow have a brilliant jerk on their team and they can work with them in some manner, that it can physically be possible. That's my great challenge. Hadass, what's yours?
My great challenge is for by the end of the show for Mike to realize that part of the job of a CISO is to change brilliant jerks into good, beneficial workers.
All right. That's our. What do you
Wait,
think, Mike? Do you have a great
I,
challenge?
so I have a great challenge, which is for folks to finally realize that the only time I get to address brilliant jerk questions is in the what's worse, where I can't actually change anything as part of the rules of the game.
Yes.
So that's my great challenge is for
Well,
folks to realize.
you
I
get plenty
understand
of
it's
chances,
not it's not a binary conversation.
We'll have a whole hour on this right
I'm
now.
looking
Jim.
forward to it.
All right.
Now I can actually address it.
All right, here we go.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Everybody. It is Super Cyber Friday. Today's topic is hacking the brilliant jerk. We have a much smaller crowd today, I think, because as you've noticed, we are on a completely different platform of Crowdcast. This is version 2, and this is an hour of critical thinking of how to deal with talented but difficult people. My fear is this new version is what kept a lot of people away. Who knows? I found out that you couldn't easily add this to your calendar. If you are discovering problems with this new version, please let us know, because we got a lot of information to give back to Crowdcast. All right. Your guest today, you probably recognize him, Mike Johnson, the co-host of the CISO Series podcast and the CISO of Fastly. And we also have Hadass Kasorla, the CISO of M1, who will, by the way, be a guest co-host on an episode of Defense in Depth coming up very shortly. So stay tuned for that. No sponsor today, and for good reason, because we're on this new platform. We wanted to test this platform out. So no sponsor. So you can participate in lots of ways, as you know, in the chat room. You can submit a how not to manage a brilliant jerk. That's your bad idea. Submit your, oh, here we go. I'm actually in our, we have a back channel now. Thank you, everybody, for joining, everybody. So how not to manage a brilliant jerk, that's your bad idea. And how to tips on dealing with brilliant jerk, just put a 10% better on there, or just 10% is all we need. You can vote in the polls. You can join us on video with Bring Me On. You can be on the new platform here. Test it out. Ask a question or vote for the favorite question. Where are the questions on this new platform? Hold on, I just realized. Over on the right, the Q&A. If you click, you see under the chat window, there's a little Q&A. Click on that, and you can ask a question there about brilliant jerks. All right, today's schedule, the great challenge. I want how not to manage a brilliant jerk. Label it bad idea. I don't see any bad ideas in. Would you get some bad ideas on this topic, please? Tips on dealing with brilliant jerk. We will play the public interest as well. Poll Live will go how not to manage a brilliant jerk. Then we'll play the Department of Yes. This will be very entertaining to see Mike say yes to something on managing a brilliant jerk. And then,
Mike.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Hadass?
I said Mike has a reputation.
Mike has very much a brand. Bad idea. Hire only brilliant jerks.
It's a bad idea.
Well, think about it this way. If your team is all brilliant jerks, they might all get along. You know?
I mean,
I see that a bad idea isn't so bad.
But then you have to work with them. So
I mean, I can be a brilliant jerk
but
also.
they're brilliant and they'll get a lot of work done. That's the other thing. Like the difficulty working with them, but you'll have a great security program. Good thing to think about. I like this idea, Matt. Last question, final advice, and then we'll do our meetup. So the link at the bottom of the screen is actually promoting, not next Fridays, because that's going to be the weekend before Labor Day, but the Friday after that, hacking cyber risk management, an hour of rethinking how we normally manage cyber risk and how we can do it better. By the way, I should mention that will be back on version 1 because we have already discovered lots of core problems with version 2. And then I should just mention, register early because you automatically get entered into a raffle to win a CISO Series jacket. And congrats to this week's winner, Joseph Resendez, who has won as well. All right, now let me turn this off and let's get to our actual discussion about brilliant jerks, Hadass and Mike. All right. I will just say this. I'm going to start, Cora, and I'm going to start with Hadass because she may actually have a positive answer on this. When are the situations where it's okay to hire a brilliant jerk? Do you believe that's okay?
Yeah, I think it depends on how your team is manufactured and whether they're a brilliant jerk but don't know that, and so you
Mhm.
can actually train them up to work with your team. And I think that that's something that's important to do. I think also you can hire a consultant who's a brilliant jerk, and as long as you shelter your team from their jerkiness, you can also hire in that sense. But I do think that um, most people who are jerks don't know they're being jerks and just need some
Yes.
coaching.
All right. I like that answer. Mike, is there a time you can hire a brilliant jerk? Which, by the way, all those answers were excellent for us.
So from my perspective, if you're in an interview process and you're looking at someone and you're taking over your notes of, hey, am I going to hire this person? And you see a note that says is brilliant jerk, I'm not hiring that person. And so I don't think it's okay to knowingly hire a brilliant jerk. It's not okay to knowingly hire a jerk. But to Hadass's point, you don't always know it. You know, there might be some time that you make an offer to someone and during the interview process, everything seemed fine and it seemed like they were a great person. And you now have a different problem that you've hired someone who is a jerk. And then that's how do you manage them? How do you help them recognize what they're doing? How do you coach them to become a better person and to become a great coworker? But I don't think it's ever okay to knowingly hire a jerk.
Even if they're consulting, because I liked Hadass's suggestion there.
So I think even for that, if you're again like you've got a slate of consultants and one of them is jerk, I'm not hiring that person because again, someone is going to have to work with them. If they were truly 100% isolated and they only ever have to work with me and they're the only person for the job, okay, you know there's a possibility there. But I wouldn't knowingly inflict jerks on my team or other teams. I don't think that's what Hadass was suggesting, but I wouldn't
she
knowingly
said like
do
you
that.
said keeping them separated. I mean, that's what you suggested.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that a jerk in one culture is not a jerk in another culture. And
That's
so
fair.
I think that it's maybe sometimes not really a jerk so much as a mismatch in culture or a mismatch in expectations of the culture. So I see that one of the questions already is what makes somebody a jerk? And to me, like
Yes, from Valerie. She just asked that question.
one of the things that I've seen is, that hero complex that can end up feeling like somebody who's a jerk, but it really is somebody who's coming maybe from an environment where they had to fix everything, where they had to be the person on, Johnny on the spot, and they don't know how to share. And you can really teach somebody how to do that and convince them that it's better for them and for the team.
All right. So I want to get to, and it's sort of a variation of what Valerie was just asking. Let's get a kind of a clear definition of what a brilliant jerk is. I kind of often see it as I see cases of it kind of like mansplaining techniques that becomes really irritating, and a lot of just listen to me attitudes. That's what I've seen in the brilliant jerk. What are the variations that the two of you have seen?
When I think about it, it's I don't know that I can. It's almost one of those you know it when you see it kind of situations where it's hard to say this is always a jerky behavior. The ones
Well,
that you
can you give
listed
us an
are.
example of a jerky behavior like I can't deal with this person in my organization?
I do think that so I personally have challenges with the well just let me do it mentality. Hadassah kind of mentioned the hero complex.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that where someone's just like get out of my way, I'll do it, I'm not going to explain what I'm doing.
The IT guy from SNL.
Yes, that right there. So if you do need a prime example of a jerk, go back and watch the IT skits from SNL where he just shouts "move" at everyone and goes and solves the problem.
Yeah.
a good one,
I
Hadas.
also think one like that to me is definitely that brilliant jerk. The other one is anybody who's talking about their teammates behind their teammates' back, in a negative way. And I, like I come from an improv background. I'm always like, you need to actually have that conflict in person. You need to actually say those words out loud and then resolve that conflict. But if you start having any kind of negative conversations about your coworkers and peers behind their back, to me that is the essence of jerkiness. But it's also cowardice, and I just think that again is something that can be trained out of somebody if they recognize that the stuff that's in their head is always worse than the stuff that's out loud.
Well, hold it. So let me ask you, were talking about training out. And this, I don't want to see some more 10% tips coming from the audience on this. Uh, Brian Colt says right here, incorporate interpersonal relationships into employee performance reviews, which would be a good thing. What have you had brilliant jerks, or it could be just a situation that someone was exhibiting a jerky behavior, but their whole sort of aura was not being a jerk. What have you done to manage that? So it sounds like you have dealt with this, Hadas, yes?
100%. And I think that the most common one I see is that hero complex one. And I address it straight up. I just say, you can't be a team of one. And you shouldn't be a hero. And it's going to wear you down. And it's going to make other people feel like they can't work with you. And really, honestly, just having sincere conversations with the person about the outcomes of that behavior and how they can shift their behavior or even reframe why they think they need to be a hero, so that they can take that energy and help mentor other people so that they can, show other people how to be more accomplished. And then they still feel accomplished by the outcomes without taking it all to themselves and not being a teammate.
And I
Good
really think
answer.
that's the primary thing is have the conversation. If you sit down and you're seeing the behavior and you have a conversation with the person, as long as they're not a sociopath, they're going to take that feedback and likely improve. Or if they don't, then there's other ways of dealing with that. But I do think the big thing is you sit down and have the conversation, and especially give the specific feedback. This is the behavior that I'm seeing. This is how it impacts other people, and this is my suggestions on how you can change or alter that behavior in the future. But usually, having that conversation, and Hadas had mentioned this earlier, quite often people don't even realize it, and just pointing it out to them is usually all that you need to do.
And they don't take it personally. I mean, it's
Oh
not,
no,
doesn't feel like a
everybody
personal
always
attack.
takes feedback personally. But you create an environment where feedback is accepted, understood, and you have to have that radical candor, right? That doesn't mean, I mean, like I take feedback personally. I've learned that for myself, and I've told people this when they give me feedback, that it hits me emotionally, and so that means that I'm not going to respond right away. I have to take it away from the moment, think about it, digest it, and then come back and respond to it, because otherwise I'll just act emotionally.
Now, do you do the compliment sandwich technique? You know this technique? Mike, you know this one?
I do, but you might want to explain it.
To explain to everybody else, the compliment sandwich is the bread is the good, the meat is the bad. So the idea is you say something good about them. You're brilliant. We love you. The bad is we're having some issues with you. And then you come back to the good. It goes, and I know you can do it because you've been successful this, and this way. So you're not, the whole goal is to not leave them with something negative as you walk away. Hadas, you're about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I use that, I'm very cautious to make sure that it's open faced so that they know that there's. I've heard it called something other than a compliment sandwich. I want them to taste. I want them to taste the negative aspect of it too, so that it's not super hidden. I'm happy to prop up and I try to do that even outside of negative feedback. But I think you really have to target what it is you're trying to say, because sometimes people only hear the good. And I want to make sure that they hear the actual, this needs to change or there will be consequences.
By the way, I like Tony Savory's comment here. He says, jerk is someone who's part of a team and thinks being part of the said team is meaningless or a nuisance. I think that's a pretty darn good definition. Yes? Yeah. I think you kind of nailed it. It's like, I don't need these people. They're holding me back. Kind of like the move attitude in the IT sketch on SNL.
Yep, absolutely. I think it's, if you look at, in a dictionary definition, there's usually, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's definitely one of the definitions of a brilliant jerk.
All right. Oh, we've got a game we got to play here. And I'm trying to find this. There we go.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right, we played this game before, and it's pretty simple. And guess what? The audience, you can play along. I have no idea. Actually, we're going to find out now how much more the audience is on delay, because we played this game and we realized how much the audience is on delay. Possibly this new version, they're on less of a delay. But here you go. Most average monthly search queries. What do you think it is? A, jerk, jackass, or smartass?
I'm going to go
C.
I'm going with B.
B. You think B? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Hadass?
C. Smartass.
Smartass. All right. Now I want to throw this out. This game is only. Oh, by the way, I don't think we have much of a delay at all because the answers.
No, they're all coming in.
Yeah. I'm going to just say this: getting all 4 correct is extremely difficult. We only have 4 of these, and getting all 4 right is super tough. We've discovered. I don't know if we've ever. I think we may have had one guest get all 4 right, but it's
I feel like you're giving us the compliment sandwich right now.
Yeah. Before we actually come to the answer, I have a question. Is this in context of anything or just a monthly search?
Just monthly search. It's in context of
jerk, because sometimes you have to look up jerk chicken or jerk
chicken.
And
so you're going A, jerk. What are you staying
I was going for B for jackass because people looking up donkeys.
There too. I was thinking that as well. All right. And the correct answer is jackass. More than double for jerk.
Oh, also the movie. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yes.
That's a good one to bring out. Yeah, that's probably getting a lot of searches as well.
Dang.
All right. Next one. Corporate culture or making friends. What gets more search queries?
I mean, I just moved to a new state, and so I know that E has been on my mind.
Same here, by the way. I've moved a year ago. Not easy, by the way. I will say that.
But I think it's D. I really do.
So you're going with D?
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
Just to be contrary, I'll go with E.
All right.
But frankly, for the exact
but he
reason
just
that
wants to be
mentioned
contrary.
Well, no, it's
Hadass wins. Split. So
you convinced me, Hadass.
Are going to get all 4 correct.
Yes.
All right. Also, the audience seems split as well. All right. Most average monthly search queries: genius, superstar, or rock star. What do you think? H.
Yeah, I agree. H. Mike, we're gonna be on the same wrong page together.
Exactly.
All right, we're gonna see who gets it right. Tie between genius and rock star.
I hadn't seen that before.
What, a tie?
Yeah, in these things, I hadn't seen that
It's happened once before. We've had it happen a couple of times before.
Twice.
All right, last one. I'm interested to know if anybody, and Valerie suggested, by the way, regarding making friends, do an open mic. That's true. I used to do that. Like if I go to a new city, and you do make a group of new friends. That's true. All right. Most average monthly search queries: bad attitude or employee morale. What do you think it is?
I'm gonna say employee morale.
I was thinking bad attitude again from the broader search criteria.
Okay, so you're going split on this. Again, the two of you are tied. This will determine the winner.
Yeah,
and it is bad attitude.
Oh.
All right. Well, Mike wins. What do you win?
What do I win?
My love and respect. That's it.
But what you're telling me is I didn't already have that, David, and that makes me so sad.
All right, let's see. We got another question that came in. Hey, everybody! And by the way, if anyone's had, I want to remind people: click the link on the bottom of the screen where it says "Join us on Friday" for Hacking Cyber Risk Management. I'm assuming with this version, if you click on it, it will not take you out of this discussion. That's the way it worked on version 1. As we're discovering with all the cool new features in version 2, they broke a lot of the features in version 1, which let's hope they didn't. But we're discovering. Matt Thompson asked this question, which is actually a what's worse scenario, and I like it. It's good. Which is worse, having an unfilled position for a long time or filling the position with a brilliant jerk? So it's a critical position. You need to fill it. You could fill it with a brilliant jerk, taint the rest of your team, or have it unfilled and struggle along the way, also tainting the team. I'm going to start with Hadass on this one.
I think worse is filling it with a brilliant jerk, because what'll happen is that the team morale will go down when they see that somebody is in a position and they're being a jerk, and they still get all of the same, respect, company respect or whatever. And having that unfilled position with a good team, you can do a little bit of dancing around to make it happen. But I just think that hiring the brilliant jerk is a cancer.
All right, and I knew, Mike, I knew which way you go. That's a worth, hiring the brilliant jerk.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with Hadass, and I also like the way that Jesse Whaley put it: of a long vacancy is always better than a bad hire.
That is a good point.
It's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, and I think that's why I always say hire slow, fire fast. Also,
yes, precisely.
Yes, we've heard that line many, many times. I will tell you that I've seen the opposite of fire slowly. And in the process of, and I'm not going to say who it was, but in the process of firing slowly, the person getting fired amassed a lot of information about the company, of how they were dealing with them. And guess what? Sued the company and made a lot of money. That's why you want to fire quickly.
It's one of the many reasons.
By the way, vote for the best bad idea. So we have these lower thirds that came in, and the vote for the best bad idea came in faintly. Did everyone else see that? It didn't come in fully there. Just, I don't know what that's about. But again, maybe it's a feature, not a bug. Who knows? Dwayne Grant is claiming that he's it's the anonymous person's claiming my jerk score is 0. How many jerks have the two of you hired in the past? Or maybe you didn't hire them and you were granted them, or you hired them not realizing jerk and they realized they were a jerk. Do you have a count? What do you think?
I'm going to say, I think 2, but I also blame myself, because I think that they weren't necessarily jerks, that they were just maybe hired into the wrong role or into the role at the wrong time. And so my ability to help them progress was limited.
So Hadass, I am going to throw this question that you wanted to discuss is, how do you know you're not getting a brilliant jerk in the interview process? So how do you interview to not get one?
I want to hear Mike's answer.
All right.
I think you just asked, right?
Oh, okay. So, I was going to ask you directly.
Yeah.
Mike's answer, you just asked, are you a jerk?
Yeah, it's just it's that simple. And people will always be honest on that, and they'll be completely clear when they answer. I don't know that there's a good question to ask. One of the things that we do at Fastly is we have a values interview, and that's always done by someone who is not on the team. That's someone elsewhere within the company, and we basically, as a company, have a list of questions that interviewer asks, and they're not related to the technical. They're not even related to what the job is. And those questions often will surface, I didn't get a good feeling about this person. But I really think what's really important is the reference checks, to actually talk with people who've worked with that person before. They're not going to give you these are people who are going to say bad things about me, but you can still get a whole lot from those reference discussions that give you that insight. So I don't have a magic answer to this one, but a lot of it just comes down to, you get the feeling.
I wonder if maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, but what about a question along the lines of, tell me of a time that you had to take an initiative over from somebody else. What were the circumstances and what were the outcomes? And then that might give you a sense of that hero complex perspective, or
That's great.
I wasn't gelling with my team, but I also love the reference check. I think especially in a community that is as widespread but also as small as security, we can usually like hit up somebody who's worked with that person that we know before and just be like, hey,
Yep.
how is this person?
By the way, a couple of things. The poll is up for the best bad idea. Go ahead. It's been up for 5 minutes now. So if you look on the right, there's a little like bar chart. Go ahead and click on that little bar chart in the right to vote for the best bad idea, because we will be playing the Department of Yes very soon. A lot of good ones. Valerie Apperson actually has something that I've definitely heard before. Interview someone at a restaurant to see how they treat the staff. Have you ever been able to just interview someone in an environment where they have to interact with others so you can see in the interview process how they would treat others?
Sure. But I think like now that we're on remote work and like I'm hiring people in, Alabama or, I'm not taking them out to public places. So that's a little more complex now, I think.
Well, you could get them on I don't know. Can you see how people treat people on a Zoom call? Can you? I don't know.
I'll send them to, can you please meet me at your local coffee shop?
Yeah. And fire up FaceTime so that we can, yeah.
And we just want to see how you treat other people. By the way, on a slightly similar note, there is a really interesting piece on the New York Times, The Daily, I think 2 days ago, about monitoring employees, about, like how Amazon does this so heavily and then others have picked up. What I didn't realize is this has gone into professional services. So lawyers, doctors, even priests are being monitored in different ways like this, electronically monitored. It's kind of astonishing. And there are people who actually like it because it keeps them on task. And also was mentioned that some women like it because it shows their true performance rather than having to be part of the quote good old boys network. So it's an interesting piece. Check it out. You are cringing like I've never seen you cringe before, Hadass. You don't like the sound of any of that, do you?
No, I don't like the monitoring. I think that how well you're working should be visible in the performance that you create, and it's not how hard you work, it's how well you work. And
it is true. Regardless, listen to that episode here. I'll find it. Or actually, Aaron, can you find it? It's was the New York Times, The Daily, a few days ago about performance. Drop the link in there. All right. And remember, everyone, click on the link below to register for our next Super Cyber Friday, Hacking Cyber Risk Management, which will not be on this platform. It'll be on Crowdcast, but on version 1, not on version 2, as we were discovering. All right. We're just a couple of minutes away. Let me get to one more question, then we'll jump to our next game. Because we talked very vaguely, Mike, about like, I don't want to hire a brilliant jerk for the sole, and correct me if I'm wrong, the sole reason, just the damage they'll do to the other team, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really just it. What exactly is the damage that they do, Mike?
One of the things is it just makes for a work environment that doesn't feel like a place where people want to work. They don't bring their best effort to it. They skate by. They're not supporting the rest of the team, and so the rest of the team is not doing their best, and they're feeling like, well, if this is the kind of behavior that's tolerable, either A, I don't want to work here, or B, I'm going to become like that person because they're obviously succeeding.
And you've actually seen this play out, yes?
I haven't seen the latter play out, but I've certainly seen the former of people leaving the team because they've had to work with a brilliant jerk, someone who was delivering on the expectations from a deliverables to the company perspective, but was downright adversarial to work with. And people have quit over it. So I think those are absolutely some of the outcomes. And I think one of the other ones that you kind of need to think about as the hiring manager or as the ongoing manager is how it reflects upon you, that you're willing to support that person. You're willing to have them be a part of the team. If you're working to fix it, that's a different thing. But if you're not trying to fix it and everyone else is seeing that, it reflects upon you as well.
All right. I think it's time to bring in a good call.
Hello, welcome to the Department of Yes, where no request is ever rejected.
All right. There are some really good bad ideas on how to manage brilliant jerks, but we're going for the two that have been voted up the most by this great team here. Poll is visible. Why isn't the poll visible? Yeah, poll is visible. Why was it visible? And reveal results. Hold on. Poll is visible. Reveal results. I don't know what. Again, this is.
We're doing it live.
I did the wrong
thing.
Doing
it live.
I'm doing it live. Hold on. I was doing the wrong one. My apologies. Reveal results. I'm revealing results to our audience right now. All right, here we go. Hadassah, I'm putting you up first for this first one right here. Okay. Remember, it's Department of Yes, whatever we say, you do want to do it, and you're going to explain why you want to do it without being facetious. By the way, speak up if this was you here. Oh, link shared. Oh, workplace surveillance. Aaron, you could just paste that into the regular chat, by the way. Oh, yeah, you already did. Thank you so much. Here we go. Here is the first one. And please speak up if this was you, because we don't have a way to figure out. Put the jerk in charge of new employees to, quote, toughen them up. Why do you want to do this, Hadass?
Well, because that's the culture you're creating. And so what you have now created is a brilliant jerk culture. And then where you're focused more on output than feel good, kumbaya. So it's absolutely like, that's a great idea, actually, because then what you have is a culture of just brilliant people who are more focused on the work that they're doing.
This goes back to Matthew Thompson's suggestion of only hire brilliant jerks. I like this. Mike, why do you want to do this?
Well, I don't know that I can top that answer. I mean, it clearly is a case of this is the culture, and people are going to need to learn to sink or swim. And the best way that you can do that is to give them a drill instructor that's going to finely tune them into the brilliant jerk that you need.
Yes, and while you're at it, shave their heads as they come in the door and make sure they're all wearing the same outfits. I had to do it when I went to basic training.
Hooray! Hooray for you, but I'm also for you and for my just copying Hadass. All right. Next one.
Good answer.
By the way, who said that first one? Who said the first one? That's mine, Brian Cole. Thank you, Brian. That was excellent. Excellent, Brian. All right, the second one, going for you, Mike, first. I like this one too. Create a Jerk of the Month award. It's sort of like the Employee of the Month. Why do you want to do that?
Well, again, you want to reward the behavior that you appreciate. And if you want to create more brilliant jerks, if you want to make sure that you're absolutely getting the best out of everyone, you incentivize the behavior that you desire. So if you want to have brilliant jerks in your world, you give them rewards. Other people see that and they aspire to be like that person because that's what's getting rewarded.
Bravo! I agree. Hadass.
I actually would do it for a different reason. I think we should bring shame back. And it is an award for the biggest jerk, but what it actually is pointing to how we don't want that. And people will be struggling and fighting to not win that award every.
It's kind of like wearing the dunce cap in the corner of the room.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah!
A little shame goes along.
Hadassah's answer was way better than mine.
All right. I like both of those. And so we have Brian called for the first one. Bring shame back. Valerie says, who was the second? Oh, this, who was the second one? I can't see who the second one was. G.I. Hadass giving Demi a run for money from Matt. We also, I want to go back to something that Matthew Thompson said. What if you were to hire a team of nothing but brilliant jerks? Because you were talking about like, this is the mode we're creating. I'm throwing this idea out there. You like really, truly the smartest, most talented people. They're massive jerks. You can still try to mold them Hadass. But then again, maybe you might not want to because they're already kind of in this way, and they're truly going to be the most talented people. The only person that's really going to have to struggle with them is you, but you're going to have an amazing security program. Would
I'd
this
take
be
it.
something worth it? No?
Yeah, sure. I would. Absolutely. Why not? But I would also throw a little dash of Hadass in there and let them know that that is the environment they're working in, and call it out, and let them know that that is the culture there. But culture is what you do, right? It's not what you put on your piece of paper. This is our culture. Culture is how you behave. And if that's who they are, and that's how they like to work, and that is how they perform really well, I'm not going to get in the way of that. But I will shelter the rest of the company from it. And that's where probably the biggest friction is going to come, because I think security has to be done while holding the company's hand. And so that's going to just end up resting on my shoulders to be that conduit and that bridge to the rest of the company. So, but I mean, if that is the environment that they want to live in and that they like performing in, I would give it a chance.
David Peach asks this question. He goes, all of this is making me ask the question, exactly how brilliant do these brilliant jerks need to be to counteract all of this jerkiness? There are definitely varying degrees of brilliance.
Very.
Yeah.
And I want to challenge that a little bit. I can't envision a world where you can have a totally isolated security team.
Yeah.
You talked about it in that they're going to have to interact with the rest of the company.
Mhm.
And I don't like the modern way
of doing defense in depth, where I actually have like nice people surrounding them that are doing the
there you go. I mean, maybe that's a way of you essentially have like graduated levels of jerkiness, where at the core you have your biggest jerks, and then you have like slightly less jerks around them until eventually you get to the point where everyone is, very easy to work with, and that
you're right,
could maybe
Mike.
work, but
there's too much kibitzing that they have to do with the rest of the company, and holding and kindness and patience that they have to have with the rest of the company, that I think you're right, that maybe it wouldn't be worth it.
Well, so by the way, I have this other question that's very similar. So would your answers change if there's some security teams that are extremely slim, like just one or two people. Say it was just you and one other person, Hadass, and that person's a jerk. You could shelter that one person, not a whole team, and you're the only one who has to deal with it. But that person is doing an amazing job.
How big is the company?
Well,
good
big enough
good
that
question.
they only need a security team of two people, a CISO, and one other person.
They think they only need a security team of two people.
That's good.
Honestly, it's too. I would have to be in that situation to know exactly how they are being a jerk, and how much interaction I would need them to have with the rest of the company. If it's a 5-person company, it's just one jerk, maybe. If it's a 100-person company, it's just me and that jerk. Probably not. There's just too much interaction that I would have to be responsible for on that level, that it'd be too much.
By the way, Mike Wilkes asked this question, and he had another one earlier that I'll have to scroll up and see it. But he says, I think there's a significant difference here. What's the difference between a brilliant jerk and someone who is on the spectrum or has ADHD or OCD? I mean, you can definitely tell the difference there, yes? And I'm sure you've dealt with that before, yes?
I mean, I have ADD. I'm not a jerk.
No, but it's really quirky. It's not jerk. And I would say many security people fall on many of these spectrums, yes?
Well, and you could certainly be on that spectrum and also be a jerk, but you're not a jerk simply because you're on that spectrum.
No, but he was saying if they're the two different things. But I don't think, I mean, I'm assuming you've hired those kinds of people, just people on the spectrum, one who's ADHD, one who's OCD. Those people are manageable. They're just essentially you work around their quirks, right? I mean,
I think that as long as you can find a way to have them engage with the team in a way that is teaming, belonging for them and for the team, and encouraging a collaborative environment, then you can work with people. And to me, like the thing that makes somebody a jerk is that ego, which is also fear, right? But that massive ego in the environment is what creates that jerky tendency. And I don't think that that's a symptom of ADD or OCD or being on the spectrum. I think sometimes it might be harder for some people to engage in the same way as other people, but recognizing that and finding different ways to help them engage is how you can overcome that without making it be a brilliant jerk scenario.
By the way, Valerie Apperson also put out a good point. Like the people with all these quirky behaviors, one of the things they do is do a lot of interrupting, and that interrupting is definitely going to come off as jerky, right?
Yes.
Yes, that would have to be managed very. Jerk intent versus jerk
I like that
outcome
one.
is what Mike says. The intentionality of it. And so, I mean, that I'm sure you probably have had it. Somebody who doesn't mean to interrupt all the time, but they do, and they don't mean to be rude, but they do. And Hadassah's saying you do that all the time. Yes.
Yeah, I
By
really
the way,
can't
you
help
could have
it.
interrupted when I was saying that to prove your point.
I know. I was going to, but I was like, I don't want to be rude. I think that's part of my ADD actually, is that like I want to finish people's sentences, I want to move forward, I have something to say already, and it's hard to curb. But I ask my team to help me curb it by asking me to, hey, wait a second, let me finish. And I think I address it with people as this is a bad habit I have. Help me fix it. And for people on my team who have that same habit, I ask them to ask the team to do the same thing for them.
By the way, Sander brings up a good point. And these brilliant jerks, world famous Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, really changed the world. So we need brilliant jerks in some cases. Mike, would you agree there? I mean, that Sander brings up two great examples of brilliant jerks.
Their history is littered with brilliant jerks who've changed the world. And we don't necessarily, I don't think we have to have them, but they exist, and many of them are very successful. But I have never worked for either of those two jerks myself, and that they're out there doesn't mean that there's someone that I want to work with.
By the way,
And I think the reason they had successful companies is because they limited the amount of contact that they had with the people within their company, right? Like the people who could handle their jerkiness were the small staff, and then those people helped barrier them.
Yeah.
all right, we're going to get the 10% poll up as well. Some great conversations going here. I'm really enjoying the chat room right now. And Elon Musk, Jason also put that one up. So, yeah, I mean, when you're that smart, it's sometimes it comes out. I found out that why am I blanking on his name? The famous architect, Falling Water in Chicago, Frank Lloyd Wright, massive jerk. He used to hire like younger staffers, young architects to work on stuff, and he wouldn't give anybody any credit and take all the credit for himself. Monster jerk, like historically huge jerk. So, yeah, major jerk. All right, let's. We
never know your
have,
heroes.
yeah. So, do we have the poll? The 10% better poll, is that up? Let's put that poll up. Hold on. The 10% better poll here. Poll is visible. Yeah, go ahead and vote on this. Somebody did vote on it, and then they just unvoted on it. Go back and vote. Anyway, the 10% better poll is up. Please vote on that as well. And while that is up, let us see. Can we get Dwayne and also Brian Colt on, because they were the ones who came up with the great bad ideas on the dealing with brilliant jerks, and see if we can have a face-off between the two of them. Okay. You have come into a company. They have given you an amazing deal, Mike. You love the way the company works, but you are inheriting a team that has one or more brilliant jerks. Is it your goal to fire them, or is it your goal to sequester them, or is it your goal to manage them? What is your goal?
My first goal is to try and help them. Is to try and make them recognize the behavior and see if that's something that we can work through. That's absolutely the first go-to. Is they're there. Treat them like a human being to start with, and see if you can help them. And then if you can't, that's a very different situation.
But I hit the bad idea poll there. Okay. So yeah, you had to scroll down to see the 10% tip poll, and so I just hit the bad idea poll. All right, that's good. Well, Hadass, what would you do? I'm assuming try to manage.
I would walk in with my cowboy boots and my cowboy hat and a gun on each side and be like, "There's a new sheriff in town." Just kidding. I would do the same thing. I think sometimes the reason somebody is a jerk is because of their management, and maybe the reason that the people were acting like that was because they didn't have good leaders. And I'm an excellent leader, so I would come in and take the temperature of the team, take the temperature of those specific people, and see what I can do to shift the attitude. And if I couldn't, then we would talk about what needs to change, and whether it's their attitude, their position, or their employment.
Attitude, position, or employment. I like that answer. All right. They are locked and ready. We've got Dwayne Grand. We have got Brian Colt, who have our two horrible ideas. Brian coming on down as well. There he is. Oh, I love. Okay. We like this new feature of the version 2, where we can have people waiting in the wings, and then we can bring them in, because this has always been a difficult thing about bringing people on to the show. All right. Dwayne, Brian, thank you for joining us. Brian, you had the first bad idea, which, remind me what it was, the first one.
It was putting the jerk in charge of new employees to toughen them up.
Oh, right. Which also, I don't think is that bad of an idea. All right. And Dwayne, remind us, yours is the Jerk of the Month Club, right?
That's right.
Create the Jerk of the Month Club.
Okay.
So Hadass, Mike, you are the judges here to determine which one is truly worse idea. Again, risk management, which one would cause the most damage. Brian, explain to Dwayne specifically why his is not nearly as bad as yours is.
Well, I mean, in Dwayne's situation, you might lose one employee, you might lose the jerk, which would be a positive outcome. But in mine, you're going to be constantly recruiting and hiring. You're not going to retain employees. We all know that's expensive and difficult. And if your employees aren't sticking around, you're not going to get the most value out of them.
All right, makes a good point. Dwayne, now you have to argue why yours is far worse than Brian's.
Well, I think Brian actually misunderstood, because when you give a jerk attention and a platform, it emboldens them. And I think that on quite the opposite of what Brian said, if you're having the jerk in that pipeline, having a touch on every new employee, endangering, this, well, you're going to realize they're messing something up. So you're probably going to fire them. They're not going to get through very many rounds. Whereas my jerk of the month is just going to keep being emboldened and be around for ages, causing harm in the organization.
Excellent points, both of you. All right, Hadass, Mike, which one has truly the worst idea?
Mike, do you know?
I do, and it's because of one of your answers that you had given when you were talking about it. I do think the drill instructor is the worst idea of the two, because the jerk of the month could actually be used, to what Hadass's point of using as a shaming instrument of, you could actually use that as a positive tool. I still wouldn't do it. But you could use that one as a positive tool versus the drill instructor approach. I don't think there's anything good that comes out of that.
And I like being contrarian, so I'm going to go the other direction and say that whatever you promote is what you get. And so if you start promoting a jerk of the month, then you're going to start getting jerks of the month, and it's going to become rampant throughout your environment instead of collected in one small space of where you put that drill sergeant. So I don't know. I think the jerk of the month is asking for it. You're begging for it.
What's good here is these are both really bad ideas. The
They
fact
are.
that we're split
they're both struggling.
tells you
So
that
kudos.
this
By the
is
way,
a good one.
Dwayne and Brian here are repeat champions on bad ideas. They know how to deliver, both of them. All right.
Yes,
Thank you, Brian, as
incentivize
always.
is the word I was looking for. Don't incentivize bad behavior.
On this show, we do. Quite the opposite. We very much incentivize it. Your dumbest, stupidest ideas, we want to hear them. All right. Thank you, Dwayne. Thank you, Brian. Which, by the way, we've discovered in a few times that some of the bad ideas have turned out not so bad. Like there's actually some positive here. Like I've always said in brainstorming, this is what I love about brainstorming. I always stress this. Good ideas come out of bad ideas all the time. So
Yeah,
I'm all
and
for
when you
bad ideas.
brainstorm, accept all the ideas because you don't know what's going to turn out to be a good one. Making
Yeah,
those
but one will spark the idea of a good one because the
Yeah.
germ of something will set off. All right, we have 9 minutes left in our show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little closing thing, and then I'm going to come back to both of you, and we're going to summarize what we have all discovered here on our show together. But let me just summarize some things before we go. Hold it, it doesn't let me go back to the beginning. All right, so let me just say this. Whoops. Remind you, click the link at the bottom of the screen to register for Hacking Cyber Risk Management, our hour of rethinking how we normally manage cyber risk and how we can do it better. I will tell you that every time we do cyber risk, which we've done a lot on this show, it's a huge crowd. So please join for that. As I mentioned, register early. So now would be a good time. And by the way, click it now because that link is going to change in seconds. You'll be entered in a raffle to win an awesome CISO Series jacket. All right, starting in 90 minutes, or actually closer to 100 minutes from now, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, Cybersecurity Headlines Week in Review. We have John McClure, CISO of Sinclair Broadcast Group, will be our guest. So stick around for that as well. And then stick around for a meetup. Go ahead, change that link at the bottom of the screen if you can, Andrew or Aaron, so people can see that it will be our meetup portion. Oh, and I have big exciting. We're going to have a special guest on our next episode, one of the founders of Toucan, the platform that we use here. So you can click on that link right now and get into Toucan, and we'll be there in just a few minutes. She will be joining us to introduce and talk about Toucan for those of you who are not as familiar. All right. With that said, I can now turn that off and bring the two of you back. All right. We actually have a good number of minutes left. So I'm assuming brilliant jerks, we always talk about it as like it is the person stuff, but very good people can do jerky behavior.
Sure.
I'm sure this happens all the time. It's just like a one-off thing. It rubs someone the wrong way. It sounds like you're probably going to manage in the same way that you were describing, Hadass, the idea to kind of take them aside, talk about like, that wasn't cool what you did. Anything different when it's just like a one-off type of a thing?
I am a big proponent of feedback and actually teaching people feedback. In Reed Hastings' book, No Rules, the Netflix story, right? He actually has a really good method of feedback that he outlines in there. And, having immediate feedback in the moment, and, don't interrupt somebody who's giving a presentation, but as soon as they're done, pull them aside, give them immediate feedback, make it, depersonalize it. So more of, I thought you were attempting to do that. It seems like you were attempting to do this. However, this is how it hit. This is how it was received. And I think that a better way to do this would be blah, 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 blah. And then for receiving feedback is also part of that loop, right? Is don't take it personally, take it away. And, I always say, take the note, right? Take the note. Put it in your pocket, look at it later. If it resonates with you, change your behavior. If it doesn't resonate with you, put it in like a little safe box on your bureau and come back to it. Because if you hear that same feedback over and over again, it's you, not the person who gave you the feedback. And eventually you want to change your behavior. But I think immediate feedback and candor is the only way that you can address those things so that they don't become cancerous, so that they don't become a problem.
Mike, I throw it to you.
What she said. I mean, it really, The giving specific feedback about the behavior. The depersonalization that you'd mentioned, Hadass, is it's the behavior that's the problem, not the person that's the problem. And you have to be very clear on that when you're giving that feedback, when you're walking someone through, because at the end of the day, people can't change who they are, but they can change how they behave. And that's something that if you're giving them that timely feedback, that specific feedback about the behavior, most people are going to take that and they're going to reflect and they're going to decide what they're going to do with it. They're not necessarily going to change the behavior, but they're going to generally be able to accept that and absorb that easier than if it's way after the fact, or if it's not specific enough for them to reflect upon the behavior itself.
Very good point. All right. I think we're going to wrap this sucker up and we're going to do our meetup right now. Thank you very much, Hadass. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for the audience. Number one thing, audience, if you could either message me, LinkedIn, email, david@cisoseries.com with any critical things, because I heard things about people having problems getting in. The calendar thing didn't happen. I just want to know more about what's wrong with this version 2. Until this thing's fully fixed, we're only going to be in version 1. The platform seems to be working fine and stuff, but there are definitely back-end issues that you guys can't see that are some serious problems. So please give me feedback on it. I do need to know this because we'd love to be on this platform if everything else could be fixed as well. A huge thanks to Hadass over at M1 and to Mike, who is a co-host at CISO Series Podcast and also at Fastly. Both of you are hiring, yes? Hadass? No, you are not.
Hiring, no.
You should listen to that, Mike. Hadass knows how to get people. What's going on with you?
Thank you, David.
I'm with
And currently, no brilliant jerks on your teams?
just me.
Just you. Just you. Well, I don't see either of you being brilliant jerks. Anyway, Hadass, Mike, please join us in the chat right afterwards. Everybody else, please click that link at the bottom of the screen where it says join us for our meetup immediately after the show. Please click it now. We look forward to seeing you all there. Goodbye. Take us out, Andrew, Aaron, one of you.